Peace, family. This is your boy Jero. What is the day? Thursday, the day after Valentine's Day, better known as Fallout Day, because some of y'all waking up to the truth. Some of y'all have clarity right there, and now it's all about choice. I got one question to ask you, to the intended heart, intended mind, because I will always see each and every one of you for what you are. You are priceless. You deserve to be happy. But to be happy, there is a requirement. That requirement is that you have transparency, to be vulnerable but courageous. Because without those three things, you can't have choice, free will. That in itself is one of the spiritual gifts, other than the number one, that is to unconditionally love yourself. And it's sad because I never thought in 2018 there will be so many people putting a united front up to stay miserable, to hold on to their denial, to deflect and not acknowledge what has been evident. I'm saying this with love, y'all, not with shade, because you can turn it around. You can turn it around, but the question should be asked, where you running? Are you tired? If the constant reminders or examples are not in your best interest, when will you take heed and take stock and what matters most? That's you. That's that little boy and that little girl that's in the mirror that greets you every day when you wake up. That is validation in itself, but you still got work to do. And that work is to fulfill your legacy, to define your life story. Yes, I understand. We as spiritual beings, we as human beings, our lives are like the waves. They ebb and flow. There are highs, there are lows, and then there is the living constant. Why can't that be your happiness? Why is there so much pushback to only find confusion? I mean, I get it. There are some people that actually believe if life has no conflict, it's not validated. It's just mundane. But guess what? That is where the illusion lurks. Yes. There are some people that actually believe if they don't have a fight, a cause, then that position of playing the martyr has no merit. Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, you got to make a choice on where you ground your feet. What do you stand on? What is your foundation? But if you don't know who you are, how can you protect or understand what is being shown, where you're headed, and better yet, the people that will be in your life to be either your lesson or blessing. That is why everything is it's intertangible. You know, it's cause and effect. If you don't understand the effect, you're not going to see the reasoning. And if you don't see the reasoning, you really won't understand the application of the process for the flow. Why can't that be flipped and be about having peace of mind, having understanding, being vulnerable, to finally understand that unique, priceless voice that you possess. You realize now we just celebrated Valentine's Day. And I tried to put a message out prior to that just to enlighten some folks, because I knew, speaking from past experiences and the insight that I gained from it, that unfortunately you have a lot of people that want the reward but don't want to put forth the work. Some of us know that is the definition of what an opportunist is. See, an opportunist will never take ownership to the application. They only cherry pick what suits them and discard the rest. You know that old metaphor, take the meat, throw away the bones? Same thing. And that's what's going on in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you every day. Only to leave you trying to figure out how. How did I get here? Why is my life reflecting the way it is? Number one, it's reflecting the way it is because it is a reflection of your state of being. So if you don't like the environment, if you don't like what's being manifested, if you don't like what's being represented, why won't you go within yourself? So that goes back to free will once again. If you don't like what is being shown, what's keeping you there? Why is the loyalty connected to your denial? Because one thing that is apparent is this: the people that have your best interests, they've already told you this. And the people that only wanted to exploit it are nowhere to be found. Now, are they? They don't take account for all the time that was invested just to yield that smile on their face, only to be placed there temporarily. They don't see the sacrifices that had to be given, had to be embraced. They just see the end result and how that benefits them. And that is a travesty in itself. But let's turn the page. Because unfortunately, a lot of people don't take into consideration that their behavior is made up of their ideologies, their perception, how they see the world. But what if that viewpoint was jaded? What if that ideology, that understanding was systematically put in place to set you back? It shouldn't cost you a restless night. I mean, an uneasy morning. It shouldn't cost you that. It should not make you feel like you're in an emotional roller coaster and you're trying to figure it out. It shouldn't. So why are you embracing it? Let me not be rude. You realize how many people are waking up this morning that wish they could have go back the last 24 hours and take it back and wish that it never occurred? How about if they could go back in time and claim back that last 6 months or that last 3 years? Because now they realize and they understand exactly, crystal clear, who that person is or the situation that is requiring them to champion through it. But none of that matters if we choose to turn a blind eye, to remain silent, or condone a position or behavior that does not empower us. You know what happens to those who choose that position? They become depressed. They become alienated. They become bitter. And worse, they embrace a position of denial that is so toxic, but through their actions, it reflects impulsiveness. But in actuality, if you stop and take note, is really their attempt, because they lack communication skills needed to convey what's really going on. It is nothing but a ploy for attention. No different than a little child that is having a tantrum. No different than a rebellious teen that has no structure. It's the same. Well, what happens if that rebellious teen without structure remains progressive in their thinking? They become that wayward adult. Yes, we know them as being bipolar and schizophrenic and sociopathic. These are all progressive behavior traits, all interwoven by denial, not truth, empowered by fear. You know, fear. Finally, everything's a reality. And the reality is you're broken. And anything that you do will fail. Know why? Because God is not in it. And usually what happens in that situation, no matter what, they willfully choose to bring chaos and self-destruction into their day-to-day, instead of trying to find freedom, peace, and grace. See, nobody can disrespect you more than you. Just like no one can do anything to you unless you allow it. Well, guess what? It looks like the world socially needs a spanking, doesn't it? Needs to be chastised. And they are futile attempts to deflect and distract you from your direction. Why? Why is that? Because you got a lot of broken people in this world that where there is examples of love, compassion, empathy, Those traits are like placing alcohol on an open wound. So what happens? Instead of running to the light, they walk into the darkness. And they take a position of, well, it is what it is, only to attract their demise. The payout is internal torment. And that is what also starts physical and emotional triggers through behavior, such as now I gotta take these pills just to balance my day out, or now I gotta have that nightcap or that morning just to make it through the day. You're not living. That's not your life. It never was. But until you have the courage to acknowledge what troubles you, you'll never find peace. You'll never find peace, but you'll find pride. You'll find ego. You'll understand what being distraught is all about. And all that does is rob you of your joy. You realize how many people realize this morning, that the relationship that they were in was an illusion that was embraced in their mind. You realize that? You realize how many people are waking up and the validation for the efforts were gone, they weren't reciprocated? Why? You can't make nobody love you if you won't love you. I had to learn that myself. You're looking at a man for 20 years that was suffering from low self-esteem. And where low self-esteem is depression. Where depression is destruction. Your life is too short, but you're not promised to see another tomorrow. So if you're in an environment that does not bring emotional safety, how can you understand what is needed to empower you? You're not a walking contradiction. But if you refuse to see your value, to grow, that is a life wasted. And trust and believe, all those people that were your distractions, they're not going to be there. That was never their intentions. Their intentions was to rob you of your time, exploit and manipulate you out of your resources. May it be financial, emotional, or sadly, physical. I tried to be subtle with that because trust and believe, some people actually use their wit and strategy. Some people know this as gaslighting. This is what the compulsive liar does. The habitual pessimist. That's what they do. But that is all for to scream and cry out for your attention. I'm a firm believer of this, family. It takes 100% effort to not only build your life, but to protect your life story, ultimately your legacy, because you're not promised to see tomorrow. And we do not know the time nor moment when our last breath will be taken in and expelled out. So why are you wasting your effort where there is nothing there to help nurture it? That's why you hear people, and you see this in social media. We know them as trolls, bitter for no reason. Why? Because they don't have a life. They have a life, but they choose not to embrace theirs. So they want to focus on yours. And it's sad. It's so sad because what they fail to realize is they're giving their power away to someone that will not value it in return. It doesn't matter if you put the truth right in their hands. They want the pain instead. They want the conflict more. That's the payout. You'll get nothing but prayers from me. Because at the end of the day, we all have to do our share. We have to do our work. For example, if your health regimen is not where it needs to be, what's keeping you from it? If your habits and behaviors are not positive, what do you think that's doing to you physically? Because you do know 85% of physical ailments, diseases, they start right here in that beautiful mind. So if your mind's not right, your reality is not going to be right, because your reality is a reflection of what you see and interpret and embrace. No different than if you believe the lie of your ideology, the commonality will be your peers. We are what we attract, family. Do not get it twisted. The greatest lie ever told was done by the beast. Number one, to convince man he did not exist. But you see the nuances, especially in the last 3 years, where it's about opposites now. It's about opposites. I got a voice and I want to yell, but I'm not receiving any love in return. So who's getting exploited? Who's getting manipulated? Ain't nothing worse for you to get frustrated and give your time to someone that does not see your word, does not acknowledge your existence. Sure, we got plenty of people that we deem as unfit, crazy, or downright demonic. You just look on TV, you'll see that example all the time. And unfortunately, just like digging for diamonds, you go deep inside that person's psyche, no matter the layers, to protect the pain, because 9 times out of 10, they got a pain that's so deep, that burns so bright inside them. That's all they come to know. But they know it's there. They know it's there. But to show that, to acknowledge that, not only will it undermine everything that they thought was true, but it also validate what they should have done and still need to do. Nobody can fix your brokenness until you decide to acknowledge what is broken. That's why I always try to convey to you, my kings and queens, stop looking for your mate. Stop it. If you're by yourself right now, that's your blessing. This is your opportunity to focus on you. If you look at your life path, You'll probably see that anything that was of importance, you sacrificed it for something else, for someone else. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, that distraction, it's not there. Why are they treating your life like going through the checkout at Walmart? They didn't got what they needed. They didn't pay the price. And out the door, they go. Who's miserable? Who's sad? Who's not loving themselves? Lastly, let me tell you something. Not to make light if you're going through, if your relationships are being called into question and review. If that person does not represent your best interest, you'll know it because it'll be reflected in their behavior because they don't represent themselves. And that is why misery loves company. And unfortunately, a lot of times, what ends up happening, they'll spend half their life running from the truth. And then on the backside, if they're blessed to have longevity of life, they'll see it. Some don't. Some don't. Some people, unfortunately, go through their whole lifeline broken, leaving those that will come behind them scratching their head like, I don't understand. What was the point? What was the point of them even being alive? What did they leave behind? Cut your toxic distractions out your life. Like I say all the time, go through your cell phone. That's a tool. If you've got nothing but negative, just look at your contacts. You know the connections you have with your contacts. If they do not empower you, indirectly, they are imprisoning you. They're enslaving you to not look at what matters most, and that's you. And I know some people are going to fight that good fight, and they're going to like, you're not talking to me, Gerald, but at the end of the day, if you're waking up stressed, if you're waking up frustrated, if you're waking up and you feel like the world is on your shoulders, you know you can change that, right? And it all starts when you have the courage to look that little boy, that little girl in the mirror that you see every morning, and you tell that person, you know what? I love you. I love you more than now than never. And I've done wrong. But we're going to have the life that we dream of, because that's what's happening. You are ransoming your dreams. You're holding up your gifts hostage only for false security. Don't worry. Get out of their way so you can find yours. But be cognitive when I tell you this. Don't worry. You will see them again. You'll see them again. But the validation will be in the intended time and moment if you've grown or chose to remain stagnant. Choice is yours. You're worth it because you're priceless. Be blessed.